Hello, everybody. Welcome to 3 Point Perspective, the podcast about illustration, how to do it, how to make a living at it, and how to make an impact in the world with your art. I'm Jake Parker.
I'm Lee White.
And I'm Will Terry, and all three of us are professional illustrators. We've all worked for all the major publishers in the business. Together, we've published about 75 children's books, and we've all taught illustration at university art programs.
That is correct. Each week we interview fantastic illustrators or answer listener questions. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we argue, but each time you learn something brand spanking new.
Brand spanking new. And today we have some questions. Will, if you're on YouTube, you just saw Will hold up a Post-it note that says, "I never learn anything new," which is false because we've been listening to this guy for the last year dive into self-publishing in a way that he hasn't ever done before with Pickleball Paul.
No one has done before. I don't know anybody who's done a deep dive like this.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure there's.
I know there's people, but I don't know them is what I'm saying.
Yeah. So Will is, every time we talk, he's all, "Oh, check out this new thing I learned. Did you know that the Library of Congress won't take your book unless it's not published yet?"
Right.
Yeah, or the other one we learned last week, what was it, is Ingram, which is a major book distributor, won't take your books unless you have 30. Is that right?
30 titles.
33.
Yeah. 33, something like it's
33,
either.
not 30.
I might have remembered it wrong. It's either 30 or 33 titles.
But it's up there, so you can't submit as a self-published
titles.
illustrator. So these are just some of the factoids that you guys are going to learn when
You can submit to Ingram Sparks. So it's like a subdivision, right?
It's like
the
Kindle
Sparks.
Direct
Sucky.
It's
Publishing.
like the King. Yeah, it's like
Ingram sucks
print on demand version. But you can't have them distribute your already printed books unless you have 33 titles. So basically, you're a small publisher, and you send them 33 titles.
Which is not impossible.
It's
Now,
not
here's my
especially
question.
if you band together.
Could you game this system if you print on demand 33 books or whatever the thing is, just stick figures and type, and then the 34th book is the real one?
You have to have physical copies, so you'd have to.
Yeah. But just stick figures and some type, and
I'm sure there's probably a way to game it.
anyway, you're going to learn all these facts. I was promoting our stuff, but you guys cut me off. We are compiling all of this info for Self-Publishing Pro, which is coming out. Our first version of the class is going to be February.
Yeah,
that's right.
No, January. It drops January.
It's January. Yeah. So
Right.
it's going to be everything that you've ever wanted to know.
So
10-week
it's like
course, deep dive. How do I make something myself and sell it?
All of your wildest dreams will come true.
We'll be famous.
Have you ever thought about this? Getting a job for like 6 months. So we work it from home.
Can say no for that.
No, just listen. We work at home, and so we have very flexible schedules. What if you go get a job at Barnes & Noble for like 6 months and just learn the whole business from the retailer point of view?
I would almost rather pay somebody else. I'll get somebody who wants to do that anyway, and I'll add to their income $3 an hour.
Do I get benefits in this fantasy? Do I get any
bennies.
benefits?
Maybe the better. Well, part of me is just like, I would love to just hang out at a bookstore all day for like 20 hours a week, part-time job.
I think what you would see is how terrible of a model publishing actually is. I hate to say that, but
I will say though,
disaster.
Barnes & Noble, have you heard about Barnes & Noble, how they're making a turnaround this last year? So they're opening they're actually opening stores. They're not closing stores. They're opening stores because the new CEO who took over Barnes & Noble, this is all from the top of my head. I don't have the exact info. I could pull it up though, but he's from England. He ran in his 20s an indie bookstore, and he like turned that thing profitable. And one of his main, I won't call it a trick, his strategy was, I never ever discounted books at my bookstore. I always sold them at full price. But he said, I organized the stores and hired people who love books and organized the stores in a way that someone who walked in who was a book lover would just be so enticed to want to be there, want to feel comfortable there, want to stay there and purchase something and just make it like a great experience. Okay. And so what he's done, one of his main strategies in taking over Barnes & Noble is giving each store sort of like autonomy and saying, okay, we're not doing we're not going to do any nationwide promotions. Maybe, if Tom Hanks came out with a biography, that would be something to do. But each individual store, your community better than we do at headquarters. So you hire people from your community and you order what your community wants. And so now if you go to a different Barnes & Noble, and even in the same town, but I like checking them out at different, anytime I travel, I like going in, checking out a Barnes & Noble and see what they got there. You'll see, okay, at the front, there's, self-improvement books in this Barnes & Noble. At the front of this Barnes & Noble, it's fantasy and sci-fi books. This Barnes & Noble has a huge anime or a manga section and a tiny graphic novel section. But this Barnes & Noble is big on graphic novels and, it has, half as many manga as the other one. And so that's what they're doing. And they're actually thriving as a business.
Wow.
So that's why
I wonder how
it'd
they're
be cool
getting
to
around.
work in one of these.
One of the secrets that a lot of people don't know about with bookstores like Barnes & Noble and what used to be Borders and all that stuff is that the policy of them ordering is the only industry where you order as much product as you want and you can return as much product as you want. So they'll make a whole wall of a new book and with the intention of, we're not going to sell all these and they're going to send it back. It just becomes a mess of a model. And I wonder how indie bookstores can't do that. They don't do that. They buy books that they think will sell. I think 5 copies will sell, not 500.
Yeah. It's the same with, I believe, comic books, the direct market of comic books, not with graphic novels, but I think with comics. I don't know. It'd be cool. I don't know if it's for this podcast, but it would be cool to do a series where you interview every person from start to finish involved in publishing. So we've already interviewed the illustrators and the writers, right? And we've already interviewed agents. So then we get an editor. Then we get the guy on the marketing team. Then we get, whoever's the publisher. Then we get whoever's in like the finance side at the publisher.
And then the bookstore owner themselves.
And then the retail owner and the person who owns the store, the person who manages the store, the person who stocks the shelves, and just the distributor, so people from Ingram and everything.
Know who we should have on? We should have on the girl, Jenny, who owns Green Bean Books in Portland.
Yeah, she would be cool.
She's super cool.
So nice.
Yeah, she's super cool. And she's doing it. I mean, she's got a successful independent bookstore in Portland.
Would that be crazy if like for 6 months we just shifted this podcast to that and just all we did was interview people from start to finish, the whole production line of publishing?
I would like it.
I'd like it. I don't know if our listeners would like it.
Who cares?
Right now,
I might like it.
Skirt over if you're not already on YouTube. Skirt over to YouTube and put in the comments.
We need to know what to do.
A yay or nay. Like that would be cool. Or here's why you shouldn't do it.
Well, maybe not 6 months, but having a couple of episodes, like once every 2 months, we'll do an update. Like, okay, here's the next person in the.
Here's the problem with our schedule. We release 1 episode a week, and one of those episodes per month is an interview. And so we're kind of hand-tied at doing 12 interviews a year.
All right, we don't need to have this meeting right now. We can figure this out later. Get into the details. Okay, let's film at 10:35. Don't need to do the deep dive right now.
Let's
move forward. So Will's working on pickleball Paul 2. Jake, what are you working on?
I am at a bit of a crossroads right now. There's sort of 3 diverging paths or 3 cross paths, right? And so one of them is a publisher reached out seeing if I would be a good fit for kind of a work for hire drawing a graphic novel. Okay. And I can't get into any more detail than that. So we're talking about if that would be a good fit. And it's something I would want to work on. I would. It's a really cool thing. Number 2, I'm developing a proposal for my own graphic novel.
Nice.
And so I'm hoping to get that book deal landed in the next couple of months. And then number 3, I have a Kickstarter that I am working on, designed a cover for the new book, and it's going to be a second book in my series that I started with the spaceships book. So it's a follow-up to that.
Dude, that
But
is
it's
a
not
busy,
about spaceships.
That's a busy schedule right
That's
there.
a lot.
Hey,
Yeah.
one thing, Jake. There's a movie playing in the background. You have to pause it. I'm like trying to watch that movie back there. What is that? Like
What's
It's
going on?
2010.
Dune or something?
No,
What is it?
2010.
Is that a
You
movie?
saw 2001, right? Stanley Kubrick.
I did, yeah.
Yeah. So this is the sequel that came out in like 15 years later, I think.
Never ever heard of that.
I deliberately
you
put
have
it
to
on there
turn it
to
off.
have something going on in the background.
Dude, I just want to watch that. I look at your head and then I look up and there's these scenes
We'll
flashing.
just watch the
and-
movie while you do the podcast, Jake.
That's hilarious. That he's like a cat with a laser.
Dude, I am. I'll swat that thing. I will seriously swat it. So I'm
We'll-
oh, go ahead.
We'll leave it up this episode, and if Lee's just like, hey, okay, what do you think, Lee? And he's like,
Hold
then
on.
we'll
There's a
know.
spaceship. Will, what do you think about that movie back there? Turn it off or keep it on?
Turn
you
it
watch-
off.
Yeah, see, Will's getting distracted. Too. It's actually flashing on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Okay, but I
like-
highly recommend this movie. Okay, go for it. You go next.
Okay, I'm at the crossroads a little bit too, because here's the thing. You can do anything you want, but you can't do everything you want. That's what I keep bumping up against. And, you guys let me know in the comments if you run into this problem. So I just finished a book dummy. It's making the rounds at publishers with some interest, but no definite purchase yet. So I'm not off to the races on illustrating that yet. I have decided to go ahead and do the rest of the series of my tarot deck. So I'm doing the full complete deck. It's going to take at least a year. So that's a long-term project. And I've started that. And then I've got greeting cards and prints and all this stuff. And so I'm just kind of like, I have so many ideas on what to do. I almost can't get started on them. I have made the decision to go ahead and do the tarot deck. So that's kind of streamlined it a little bit. But I could write a new book. My agent is saying, hey, write another one so we can, pitch another book down the road, whether this one gets purchased or not. I can make some individual images, which then I sell as prints or cards or whatever. And so I'm just kind of bouncing around through my day, and I feel a little unfocused. It feels like, we talked about that book, Deep Work. It doesn't feel like deep work. It feels like I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this for a minute. No, I'm going to do this for a minute. And like, they're all kind of pulling, and I don't know which one to go to. I mean, it has gotten a little bit better over the past couple of days since I made the decision to definitely go ahead and do the tarot deck. But you guys ever feel that way, that you're just kind of like, Will's all in on Pickleball Paul, and that he's like, blinders on, which is a great place to be. That's how you do deep work. But do you guys ever get that where you're like, well, I could do this. I could do greeting cards. I could do some patterns. I could do a children's book. I could do a graphic novel. And then I'm sure it's just tough to like lock down on something.
Yeah. I was just thinking about that because I was listening to this interview with Mr. Beast, and he was saying, he's like, I do 3 things and that's it. He's like, I work out, I make the absolute best video I can make, and I sell my chocolate. I just focus on Feastables, right?
Well, he says that, but then he's also got a restaurant.
Well, no. So that's him personally. So because of his like singular focus on just making the best YouTube video he could make, those videos became super successful. And now he has, 500 employees that run Beast Burger, run the chocolate company, build the sets for the things, edit the videos, market, translate all the videos, do his whole operation, right? I hate to compare us to like the most successful YouTuber that's ever existed with 100.
Yeah, he's on a yacht last week with like Elon Musk. You know, he's different lifestyle.
160 million followers, but there's power in focus, right?
Right.
And that's something I know, but I don't practice.
I struggle with it. Well, Jake told me something pretty interesting last week as been struggling with this over the past couple of weeks, especially as I've made a bigger push to do YouTube and a bigger push to consistently post to Instagram. It's just like you're feeding all these different things. And like if I'm writing a children's book only, that's where it really gets problematic because I can't put out that work. And so then I need to come up with another project just to like, okay, I posted something to YouTube, I posted something to Instagram. But this is the one thing that self-publishing has over a published project is what Jake suggested is I bring the audience on board, is that if I'm doing this tarot deck and it's going to take a year, I'll just bring everybody on board and show you how that process is going, what it's like. And then that becomes the content. And so that kind of kills two birds or more birds with one stone. I'm doing with same as well. Yeah.
Yeah, Will's doing a great job.
I like that idea because it becomes too many things to feed, really. Like all these just different streams, it'll start to drive yourself crazy. And the worst part is the output will be very, like I said, light work. It'll just be like, okay, I made an image. It's not a great image, but at least it's something. Here you go. You know, that's not a really great way to grow as an illustrator.
It's such a hard thing right now because well, I should say it's never been easy for any time period or any group of people. So in 20 years or 20 to 50 years ago, whatever, if you're an illustrator, you had to be really good at it. But you had to figure out how to be really good at it with the least amount of information available as possible, right? So you're going to art school and the only tutorials that you actually get to watch are ones that are done right in front of you in person. Okay.
If your teacher did that, which most of them don't.
Right. So for you to be, really good at illustration in the 1980s, let's say, you had to, essentially learn from a mentor, from somebody in person. Okay. So that was like hurdle number one. Hurdle number two was then there was the only way you could like make a living was working for a major publisher, some big company, some sort of gatekeeper that decided, okay, you're the one, I'm picking you, and you're going to be on our roster of illustrators. Okay, so there was competition there, but you had to like edge out the competition and convince one or two people that you were the one, right? And then once you made it into there, bam, you had it made. You got all the work you could ever handle. You could afford a house. You could, save for retirement, and life was good. But there was maybe a few thousand people who could do that in the country. Okay, so fast forward to today, anybody can have access to the absolute best tutorials for free, and if they're willing to pay, a couple $100, a notch up, even better tutorials than the free ones, more focused and narrowed down. So what we're seeing now is it's really like a testament to like human ability and ingenuity that you could see a 19-year-old kid who is as good as a 40-year-old was or a 30-year-old was 20 years ago, because they fast forward through all the crap and figured out the exact, handful of things to do.
True.
Okay. But now there's 10,000, 50,000, people who can do this level of work, right? I don't know if those numbers are bloated or not, but there's way more people who can do very good quality work. And it's global. So it used to be that, you're really only competing with, people in your country, or a handful more. But
even local market could be really who you're competing with. I mean, it's very small.
So now there's so many more people vying for so many more jobs. But the publishers and the gatekeepers and stuff, they are it's sort of the there's this facade that they kind of know what they're doing. I think what publishers are doing is maybe what it used to be is we're going out with 100 books this year. Now it's going to be we got to do 1,000 books, in the hopes that one of these is a hit.
Shotgun approach.
Shotgun approach. Okay, so then, but now you also have sort of like this creator economy where you can post a video on YouTube, you can post TikToks and Instagrams and all that stuff. You have access to printers, self-publishing, all kinds of things. So you could, if you have an audience, man, you can just market directly to them and maybe even make a living, a sustainable living off of 1,000 true fans, right? Or 2,000 semi-true fans or whatever, right? But then it used to be all you had to do was focus on art because the publisher's going to handle everything else. Now you have less time to focus on art because you are marketing, you are handling emails, you're shipping, you're dealing with returns, or damage or lost packages. You're paying your taxes, you're doing the accounting and all that stuff. And so what's my point is saying it's like it's never been easy. It's sort of, I heard an artist say it's like choose your hard.
That's interesting.
What kind of hard do you want to deal with, or can you deal with?
Right.
So I don't know where you started there, but I think and it kind of goes along with one of our questions is like, how do you handle all of the business side of stuff? How do you make this work? Should we go into the questions, or were we going down another track that we didn't finish?
No, that's good. I mean, it kind of answers what I was talking about, that there's so many different things. You've got to figure out how to overlap those things. I mean, that's my takeaway.
First question comes in from Roddy. And he says, the subject line is the mechanics of running a freelance art career. Hi guys, a question about the business mechanics of running a freelance art career, as in bookkeeping, invoicing, filing quarterly taxes, licenses and permits, finding an accountant and a lawyer, keeping records and receipts, useful apps and books, etc. The boring, scary stuff we creatives tend to avoid. Let me just say this, from my perspective, once I just embraced that was a part of it, and it was just like, I gotta do this stuff. It comes with the job. Let's just figure out how to do it. And I created systems and like processes to deal with it. Then it wasn't a thing that stressed me out, and it was a thing that actually was so satisfying to just have that like nailed down and buttoned up. So why don't we just kind of go through, like, each one of us quickly say what your sort of back end admin process is. You want to go first, Lee?
Yeah, I do want to say that, like, I mean, there's a certain personality type that goes with being good at this stuff. I tend to enjoy it, but I only enjoy it when I'm ahead of it. Like Jake's saying, and it's automatic, you know what to expect. When it gets overwhelming is when you're not paying attention to it. You haven't done anything in a long time. You need to invoice, you need to pay your taxes, and you just kind of want to hunker down and wish it all away. And I'm no different. So I had to come up with a way, something that works where this stuff doesn't get in the way, because it really does. It really will wreck your creative flow to have to send a freaking invoice or find a receipt or something like that. So the way that I handled it overall was I came up with what I call See Friday. That is Clean Up Friday. It's just a little acronym or whatever, but anything that comes in like that, an invoice, a receipt, all that stuff, even emails I have to send, all that stuff gets pushed to Friday. And that's the first thing I do. And I know that, as things are accumulating over the week, I get a check in the mail. It goes in the little Friday pile. So I have this little grouping of stuff. I basically batching tasks. That's what that's called. And I just know it's going to happen on Friday. I know to go to my software, which I tend to use both TurboTax during tax season, and then I use QuickBooks, which links to that. QuickBooks Online is fantastic for entrepreneurs and self-employed people. That all sort of works together with your banks and all that stuff. And it takes me 10 minutes on Friday to do all that stuff. I even do it for the SVS stuff now. I take care of SVS's billing and all that stuff. It doesn't take long as you know what day you're going to do it, when it's going to happen, and then everything just points to that day. And then it doesn't stress you out. You're like, oh, I know I'm going to do it Friday. I'm not thinking like, man, I need to do this thing. You don't know when. Like free floating anxiety is a real thing. When you start to get all these kind of floating tasks, you don't know when you're going to do them. You know you need to. It really will add to the stress. So you got to figure out plans and systems, like Jake was saying, to get it all taken care of where it doesn't add emotional stress to you as well.
That's good. I will say one thing I do that made my life a lot easier was just using Google Sheets for invoicing. And I downloaded one of these invoice templates that actually had built into a calculation for you type in your rate, you type in how many hours or days you did it, and then it calculates immediately on the sheet itself what
Can we
the
link
total
that
is.
in the show notes? Do you know where you
if I
got
can
it?
I mean, I don't have like a blank one. I'll have to like make a blank one, but it's just a free download, and I've adjusted it over the years to like fit my needs personally. It's got all my banking info on there and everything. And so and then what I do is I keep all my invoices in one folder on Google Drive, and I number them as you're supposed to do, but I number them so that I can just go through, and if it's a client I already worked for, I'll just copy that invoice I did, last year, change the numbers and the dates on it, and send it, download a PDF and send that over. And then on my computer, I have a file just called admin, a folder called admin, and I keep by year every invoice, every contract, every sort of what are they called, W-2s, like all the tax stuff in this folder, so that they're super easy to access. And I'm sure there's like maybe an accountant who dabbles in art that's listening right now, and they're just like, you guys
Well,
come listen to my podcast.
The Quicken or QuickBooks Online for self-employed people has an invoicing feature as well. And it's great because it'll show you every time you log in, hey, this one hasn't been paid. You don't have to like wonder and go back and say, well, did they pay it or not? I don't want to think about that stuff at all.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
yeah.
So I want it to
should
say,
probably
hey, this is
switch to
30
something
days
like that.
late. Yeah, I mean, it's automated. It's on a time frame. And if it starts getting really late, it'll really start reminding you like, hey, and it'll say, do you want us to send a reminder? It's already pre-populated. So it'll send an email saying, hey, just remember about this thing. It's kind of cool. And it just makes it easy. You just want to make it easy.
Yeah. The PayPal has that too. I've sent invoices via PayPal as well. And that's a really easy way to keep track of stuff too. What about you, Will?
I have an accountant, and I just send them. I put everything in a file and just send it. It's pretty easy.
Mm-hmm. What about the invoicing side of things?
I do that manually, but I don't have a lot of clients like I used to have. It used to be more of a burden.
Right.
Yeah.
And now it's not. So.
Right. What did you do to like mitigate the burden of it?
It was always a burden.
Oh, you just never.
I just didn't like it.
Your decision was to, I'm just going to work for myself.
No. I mean, like back in the day when I had like 20 freelance projects a month, it was a lot to stay on top of. And I did what Lee talked about. I stayed on top of it, because if you got behind, it was a nightmare, So I learned real quick that you have to don't put the things off that you hate. Mm-hmm. I've learned to say, it's the whole eat dessert after you eat your green beans or your broccoli or whatever. I mean, I live by that. So if I have stuff cluttering up and I have a to-do list, and I will do that. So like the other day with the the how to fix your art thing, I had different plans for what I was going to work on that morning. Mm-hmm. Then in our meeting, we're like, hey, we decided to turn in those PDFs. I still had to do some edits on mine. I made that bump the fun thing that I was going to be working on in my illustration work, because do the hard things first. If you can get used to doing that, work first, play later,
Yeah.
you'll be more successful in life. I think that's kind of like a thing that successful people and even wealthy people probably have in common more often than not, is they've learned to work first and play later.
Yeah, it makes a big deal. I mean, like even just getting your illustration work done. I remember in school, that was sort of a philosophy I had, like what you're saying, Will, is that I'd get an assignment, it's due in a week. My deadline was 2 days from the day that they gave the assignment. And that way I have 5 days, if it came out great, just to hang out and be like, I can't wait to turn this in. It took all the stress off me. But more importantly, when I messed up, which I did frequently, it had this huge window of time where I got to either repaint it or fix it or whatever. Meanwhile, I see people staying up all night the night before. They're scrambling and there is no margin of error. Like it has to be perfect. Otherwise they're screwed. So they're panicking. And I just hated that feeling of being late, you know what I mean? And not being able to change stuff. So I agree. If you can learn to do, it's weird how much your body and mind will change if you just start accepting some things as normal in a weird way. I'm like, you just think like if you eat poorly, you say, oh, I'm going to clean up my diet. You start eating good. At first it kind of sucks. And then all of a sudden you're just eating healthy and you don't even think about it anymore. And it's just like, you can almost train yourself to do, like I work out every day. I did not grow up doing that. Like that only started like 3 years ago or 4 years ago. And now it's just it's almost easier for me to work out now than not work out.
Yeah.
Right.
It's weird how you change.
Yep.
It's the same with me and running. It's like if there's a morning where I just get up and take a shower, it like something's off. Like
if you feel worse.
Why didn't I put on the running shoes? I wanted to say too, if you're working with, I'd say more than one client at a time, even if you're working with one client, make a document that sort of highlights all the important information that you can sort of see on one page. This is for me because I cannot handle, my brain just can't keep track of 20 emails, different email threads, a contract over here, this and that, and all that stuff. And, a phone meeting or a Zoom meeting we had there. So I would just make a document per project that just says, this is the basic terms. This is the requirement. This is how much they're paying. This is the date it's due. Just all those sort of things on this document, and make a new one for each project that you get an email from a client and they're like, hey, we want to do this, and you accept it, and then bam, you make that document so that thing, and then bookmark it. That thing is so much easier to keep track of than the emails. And if you have a meeting, you go back in there, you put notes in there during your meeting and whatnot. I think that's super handy as well.
Nice.
And then I also can't recommend enough, like, especially if you feel like you have a brain like mine, where it's very, I would say, creative and image based and tactile based, and information sort of leaks out the back that's more administrative stuff instead of like stays in there. Absolutely keep a schedule book, some sort of calendar book, to-do lists, those types of things. Have those things visually in front of you, not on your phone, but a physical piece of paper or something in front of you.
Why not on your phone?
Well, if you're like me, your phone's distracting, and you will be like, oh, I got to check the calendar. And before you even get to the calendar, you see 5 texts, and then you're answering texts, and then you see a notification for Instagram, and you're like, oh, shoot, someone commented, let me check that. And then you're 10 minutes into it, and you're like, why did I pick up my phone again? And you get back to your desk, and you're working, and you're like, oh, I got to check my calendar. You go pick up your phone, same thing happens. That honestly happens to me, like more than once in a day, right? So the more I can keep off my phone, if you're like me, this isn't advice for everybody, but if you're like me, the more you can keep off your phone, I think the more focused you can be in your creativity.
No, I think it's for everybody. I mean, I think they designed the phones to do that, and they've done a great job at it. And so don't feel bad if you need to peek and check and stuff. What I've been doing lately, this is, again, just my own, what's working for me, but maybe it'll help somebody out there, is I don't sleep with my phone. It's in my office, actually. And I have a policy that, I have a whole group of stuff that I try to do in the mornings, but from exercise to eating right to, taking care of, some stuff around the house, whatever my little schedule is. I don't even look at the phone. I don't even turn it on. I don't see it until a certain time of day. So say 10 o'clock will be that's when I first log in and can look at the phone. But it's just not even a part of the morning. And I'm trying to make that the same thing in the evening. The phone goes down at a certain time and the phone is just gone at that point. And it is such a relief. I don't know if you've ever experienced that, but just like not having to check it or even giving yourself the ability to check it. It's your life will change if you do that. Mine is starting to change. And I find myself craving, I need to check and see if an email came in or if somebody's texted me. I hate it. But it's slowly, like I said a few minutes ago, as you change, you'll just start to adapt to that new thing and it goes away.
I purposely don't take it when I go to exercise. When I go play pickleball.
Well, that's the beauty of the watch, is that if I have an emergency while I'm running, I've been running in my trails back here. If I get bit by a rattlesnake, I can call for help. You know what I mean? I can use the things that a phone is great for, but I'm not sitting here trying to look at my watch. You know what I mean? I don't have good vision. And
what are you worrying about when you're running?
Not if I get bit by a rattlesnake, I'm worried.
That was so specific.
Happens a lot.
That was so specific.
Saying,
I'm worried that when I'm running.
Well, like Emerson had to reach me for something this morning. I needed to do something for him today, and he was checking in. And so, you just never know if somebody's going to.
You might have a heart attack or something.
Anything could happen.
If you're going to step on a rattlesnake while you're running, step on the head. And then you're good. You'll run fast enough that you'll lift your foot off. It won't get you. But have you seen those the videos of the experiment with like the fake foot stepping on a rattlesnake?
No.
They're programmed to turn and bite the thing that stepped on them. Like they can bite it so fast. They did one on it was Discovery Channel or it was I can't remember which show, but they had like that rubber foot thing on a stick.
Yeah.
And just slow motion camera step on the rattlesnake. And I mean, they would like step and lift their foot up and it would bite them before they could get their foot back up.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's those tests that just make you scared to go out in nature. It's kind of like when they push the mannequin on the paddleboard in the Pacific Northwest and it gets devoured by a great white.
Yeah.
You're like, oh my God, it's not even moving or anything. It's getting attacked.
And Lee, don't think about how painful a bite like that would be next time you're running.
For me, I'm faster than most people. I would grab it by the head, wrap it around my waist like a belt, and just keep jogging.
Yeah, that's what I do too. No, what's funny is, so I run. I'll go on a run, and if I'm within a mile of the home, and I hear sirens, I can count 1 1,000, 2 1,000, 3 1,000, 4 1,000, 5 1,000. Ring, ring on my phone. Hey, honey, I'm okay. That's not for me. All right. I'll see you in a few. Bye. My wife.
You're running with your phone?
I run with my phone. I have a little holder. Crazy. I have a little, like a mini Camelback pack that holds thing. Maybe a gallon of water. No, maybe half a gallon of water. And then I slide my phone in it and I have my headphones on and I'll listen to a podcast for like 30 minutes. And then I'll just listen to my own thoughts for another 30 minutes. And then I call it good.
Do you do an intro on your own thoughts? Where you're like, hey guys, I'm Jake Parker.
I'll be like, hello, everybody in there. This is the Jake that's in charge. Nice. And today, what are we going to think about? What's on the agenda? We have a little meeting in my head.
All right. That's a signal that we need to go to the next question.
Yeah. We started with how do you file quarterly taxes and ended with rattlesnake bite. No, Jake in his head. Right. Okay. Here we got Mike. Subject title, change places. Hello, Will, Lee, and Jake. My name is Mike Schulten, and I'm a Dutch artist. Also, I'm a longtime listener of the podcast. Little situation sketch. I've got a steady day job that pays very well, but does not give me the same satisfaction as when I'm at home drawing. I get lost most of the time. I'm happy, and I think this is the thing I have to do for a living. Man, just that feeling of being lost in the work and you lose track of like, oh, it's been 2 hours. It felt like 10 minutes. That's the best. On one hand, I think I'm not on a professional level. I need to quit my day job. Maybe my perfectionism. I'm sorry, I'm murdering this. Okay. On the one hand, I think I'm not on the professional level. I need to quit my day job. Maybe my perfectionism is bugging me with this. I don't know. But on the other hand, I get paid assignments, and the people around me always ask, is this your job? Because they really like the work. At the moment, I'm only putting in 8 to 16 hours a week for drawing in my spare time, but I think I can get a lot better and more assignments when I have 40 to 60 hours a week. I would love to know what your opinions are about this problem, in quotes. Thanks for your wisdom. And it gives us a link to his website, so we could check that out and see what's going on over there.
Is he saying, let me clarify, is he saying that his day job is an art job as well?
No, his day job is not art.
But it pays well.
So let me answer this question. Well. This is not going to be the answer that he wants to hear. But
okay, because I have an answer too.
Mine will be the answer he wants to hear.
There's a phrase that it says, when I'm at home drawing, I get lost most of the time. I'm happy. And I think this is the thing I have to do for a living. If you change your setup, you will not get that same thing. If you turn into a pro, that feeling will go away. Because right now he's basically saying it's an escape. There's not a requirement on it. He could do it at his leisure. He could do 1 hour. He could do 4 hours. He could do a sketch. He could do a painting. It doesn't matter.
If he's not feeling it one day, he could just stop.
Right. And my analogy that I use in my class when I talk about this notion is a tennis player. Like if we have tennis courts right next to my house. If I want to go play tennis, I take my son or my wife, we go play tennis. Pretty fun. The second I want to start to compete locally, well, I probably need to practice 3 times a week. And it's still probably pretty fun, pretty loose and casual, but it's a different level than just going and swatting the ball back and forth. It doesn't matter, not even keeping score. And then the next level up from that is, well, hey, I'm gonna join the Denver tour or whatever, start to ratchet that up and be a pro. Now I have to practice every day. My serve needs to be a certain speed, all this stuff. And tennis is not the same thing. That was not nearly as fun, probably, as just hitting the ball. A different level of requirement. And that's the same thing that this person's saying is that they're basically, the equivalent is they're batting the ball back and forth with their sketches. They can do whatever they want. They can draw whatever they want. And that is fun. Uh-oh. Do not take that away.
Did Lee drop out for you, Jake?
Just say that again. You cut out for just
sentence.
a minute.
The last thing I said, the second you go pro, you're taking the fun part away. Not that it wouldn't be replaced by something else, but that free flowing enjoyment goes away, and it will become much more deliberate, much more difficult. You'll worry about what people think of it a lot more because whether you get paid depends on whether people like it. And so it's just going to be a different thing. So just be prepared for that. It is, when you do something just for fun, it's sort of a grass is always greener kind of thing. And I don't think the grass is greener. It's a different kind of grass. It's a different kind of everything. When you say, oh, this is what I enjoy this sort of on my free time, I think I'm going to be a pro at it. Entirely different world.
So there's truth to that. But there's also it's such a nuanced answer. Mm-hmm. There's also the idea that like when you're where he is, just getting paid for doing illustration is euphoric. Mm-hmm. We've all been there, right? In the early rounds it's like the life cycle of an illustrator. You start out and all you want to do is get paid for being able to make art and also being able to stay home. Do you remember when you had a 9-to-5 or when you had a job and you had to go to that job and it was just one of those days where all you want to do is stay home?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. You just want to stay home, but you have to go. So you're looking at that part of the freelance going, well, I would be at home. And like anything that we get, the shiny new toy, I think this is what you're saying, Lee, is you get that shiny new toy and all of a sudden eventually it becomes not that shiny new toy anymore. Right. And in that life cycle, what happens is, at first it's great. And there always is being a freelancer. It always is great that you don't have to commute. You don't have to deal with getting all dressed up, and you can work in your pajamas, whatever. You can control the media that you listen to or watch while you're working. You can control what time you start work. There's so many amazing things about being a freelancer, but it does become a job, and you still have a boss. And one of the worst things is you're doing emotional labor making art. And when you're doing your best emotional labor, your best work, and the client says, we want to go in a different direction, and they give you bad direction. To me, that is the worst. That's worse than any job. Right? That's what kills the artist spirit, is when we're given bad art direction that we have to follow. And then we end up hating working on that piece of art more than if we just had a job that didn't matter, where we went and punched a time clock and we just put in our time.
Right.
That's why I said, so like if I was to diagram this, the life cycle of an illustrator would be, it would start out like once dying to get illustration freelance work and get paid for it. Then you get that freelance work and you're getting paid for it. And it's amazing. And then you move to the next section where you've been doing the same work for years, and now you're starting to feel like a job. And then the next section is it starts to feel like a job so much that you can't wait to get into being able to write your own books or create your own IP so that you don't have a boss. Right. And
that's where we all are right now.
That's where we all are right now. And it kind of spits you out into, well, I could have just been a gallery artist right from the beginning, or,
Well, again, grass is always greener, because each thing that you pick comes with a pro and a con.
Right.
And you just got to be ready for that con. If art is an enjoyable escape for you, I just want to warn this person that, that might be what you want art to be, instead of turning the dial and making it something totally different.
Yeah, but I also get this this desire to like really push the limits of what your abilities are, and knowing that your main constraint right now is time. And just if I had 40 hours a week to do this, how much better could I be? Like, and so my advice to you is you say you have a job that pays really well. I would, if you don't already have enough money to cover your bills for a couple of months, save up enough money that you could take a leave for a couple of months with vacation. You live in where did he say he lived? He's
Dutch.
He's a Dutch artist.
Netherlands somewhere probably.
So I'm sure they've got good work-life balance there, and you could probably take off a significant amount of time for vacation. And instead of traveling or playing Legos or whatever, like what I would do is line up enough work that you could do 40 hours a week of client work or a project, an art project or something like that, and just test it out, try it out, and see if you do enjoy it or if it is a slog. And if at the end of that and you realize, man, this was way more fulfilling and I was actually able to fill this time with client work, then I'd start making a plan that if you can like get a runway of like 6 months worth of work from clients, or an equivalent self-produced project that gives you 6 months worth of work and pay, then I'd say you're in a spot where you can quit your day job and do art full time for a living.
That was terrible advice. Let me rephrase that.
Okay, let's hear it
in the correct way. Not really terrible advice. It's pretty good advice, but I do have a slight switch to that.
Yeah.
If you make a lot of money, he said he has a well-paying day job.
Mm-hmm.
My advice would be lower your bills. I know
Mm-hmm.
me and Will are kind of on board with that. Jake just spends, but me and Will are frivolous. Frivolous? Is that the right? What's the right word?
Frugal.
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 The
Will's
opposite.
frivolous, frugal with our money, and we limit the debt. And if you limit your debt and you have a decent paying job, there may be a moment where you can take that job down to part time. You don't have to do this vacation switch and days off. Is take your day job down to part time, and then either the art hits or it doesn't. But at that point, it doesn't matter. You have free time. Free time is the ultimate. It's the ultimate gift that you can give yourself if you can set yourself up like that. So you eliminate your debt or lower your debt and go part-time with the good paying job, keep the good paying job. And then like Jake says, start to dive into, maybe getting some pro jobs. But for you, it wouldn't matter at that point anyway, because your day job, even part-time, is covering your bills. That is the best life you could ever have, in my opinion, right there.
Yeah. Yeah. Because one thing about a sort of independent art career is it is inconsistent. You'll get
Right.
a sweet job that's going to pay you, it's going to pay you $30,000 and you're going to crank that out, in a couple months. And then there's going to be 6 months where you're just getting $1,000 job here, a $5,000 job there. And so it's always good to have some sort of layer of financial security to go along with that, whether it's a part-time job or your spouse works or you saved up some money or you have some sort of investment that you're working off of until you can like pretty consistently get good work.
Yep.
Perfect.
All right. Last question. This comes in from Robert. He says, "Will AI art kill the modern artist?" And we've talked about AI art a little bit on this podcast. So he says, "Some say we're in a postmodernist era or contemporary era. Do you guys think AI art or AI assisted art will usher in a new art style or era? And what should this new era be called? Maybe like post-human, the post-human age."
So here's the thing. If it's ripping us off, right?
Yeah.
Then it's basically mirroring what all the different styles that we're already doing. So like right now, I think the tendency is because most of the stuff we see coming from Midjourney and programs like that are highly super rendered hyper realism. We're seeing like, at least that's what I'm seeing, mostly like hyper rendered hyper realism. But that's because we're in the very infantile stage of it. I think that over time, artists are going to use, or artists / people are going to figure out how to use it to do just about any style. So I don't think there will be an AI style. I think it will be artists using AI to do many different styles.
It'll just become part of the workflow. I don't think it's just like we've talked about before. Right? Everything when it's new is all the buzz and all the rage. It'll just become part of people's art style. The people who are just pressing the buttons and get an amazing result, it will not hold enough interest for that to last. In my opinion, it's just a shiny new toy and they play with it. They get, 10 images of these crazy environments that it's capable of doing. That's just gonna be a passing fancy. That's not gonna hold anyone's interest. But for you to have a career in this, it's just going to become part of the workflow. Maybe it helps you do color studies. Maybe it helps you come up with variations of a certain little part of it. But I don't think it's going to do the whole thing for you. I think there's going to be human construction and just, like Will said it before, I think better than I'm saying it now, where we did it before anyway. We just used reference and we saw like, oh man, this illustrator brought in this great lighting and this illustrator did this great character design. What if I combine those two? That's exactly what we're doing with AI. And that's what it's going to become.
Yeah. And here's the thing, like, I think social media kind of screwed everybody up because social media, in order for it to thrive, needs content. And so for the last 10 years, everybody's just been turning everything around them into content. So if you're an artist, if you're a photographer, it was super simple. I'm just going to post my photographs on Instagram. I'll get a bunch of views and likes, and bing bang boom, I fed the algorithm, and now people are coming to my portfolio, right, to my website. Artists, I remember early on going to Instagram, and this was like 2011. I've been on Instagram for over 10 years now, over a decade. That is crazy.
That is crazy.
That is crazy. But I remember I'm just going to take pictures of my life around me. And then one day I was like, oh, I drew something in my sketchbook. I'll take a picture of that. That thing got 100 likes, whereas everything else was getting 50 likes, right? And I was like, oh, I'll just keep posting pictures of my artwork. So then it turned into that's all I posted, and then I was creating stuff specifically to post on Instagram instead of doing long skinny pieces of artwork or tall or wide pieces of artwork. I do square pieces of artwork because they would fit better on that screen. Instead of fine detail, I do chunkier detail because it would look better on a small iPhone screen, right? And so now we have AI, and what I'm seeing most of it being used for is content on the internet. I don't, aside from the backlash recently that Marvel got for. Did you see the intro to Secret Invasion?
I heard about it.
All done with AI, right? This is sort of like the first mainstream application of it, and it's an interesting, cool effect. It looks cool. Aside from it being AI, and it's really cool looking, but that is a look that only AI could get. And in 5 years, we might be so tired of some of that stuff, that's noticeably AI or even in a year, we might be so tired of it that they're going to go for somebody that can do something new and interesting, whether that's they use 3D software or they use pastels, and so I sort of see it. I anticipate sort of consumer fatigue at how much AI stuff is being produced, right? So that's one factor of it. Then there's the other factor where these AI models are trained off of images that are posted online. Well, if everybody's posting AI images, and a quarter of all images posted online are AI images, and the AI is being trained off of AI images, you get a collapse of what they call a collapse of the model, where it doesn't work anymore, where it doesn't know what's real and what isn't real, and the prompts you put in look like garbage because they're just trained off of garbage, right? So that's another factor that we could see. Then the other factor is governments just saying, oh, you cannot copyright an AI image, or oh, if you use an AI image legally, if you want to use it legally and make money off of it, you have to show provenance. So you have to show which pixels were used from which artwork, right? And so that's sort of an impediment to this really taking over and becoming a thing.
Because you're worried about getting sued.
Yeah, because right, you're gonna worry about being sued, and I wonder if Marvel's dealing with that with the intro that it made. I don't know.
I was telling you, I was telling you guys about the poster that I was making for my church the other day, and I had to get a stock photography image, and the site that I used, 123RF, when I chose that image, said, do you want to see some variations on this same image, different sizes, different proportions?
Yeah.
And so I'm like, oh, cool. I'll see what the AI will regenerate. And when I clicked yes, it gave me this disclaimer that said, if I proceed basically and make this image, then if I buy the image and use it and someone sues for copyright, that I'm responsible for it.
Nice.
So that was, so everyone's kind of worried about All it's going to take, I guess, would be one major lawsuit where someone loses big time. And
I think it would be so hard unless it's such a direct ripoff from one person. I just don't see how that would even be possible.
Right.
Knowing the rules of copyright infringement.
it would be a
don't see
battle
how-
I would imagine it'd be a battle of programmers in the courtroom.
Mm-hmm.
If there's some kind of like, trace
witnesses.
code or something, maybe. I mean, yeah, sure. You guys remember? I just want to point this out while we're having this conversation that when we did the interview with Nathan Fowles, he had mentioned the software, the cloaking software.
Mm-hmm.
Have you guys looked into that since he mentioned that, or have you done anything with it?
I've looked into it a little bit. And I haven't used it at all, and I think for that to really work, it's going to need like mass adoption. It needs to be like a plugin in Photoshop or something like that.
How
so
great would that be?
Right,
We need to,
so that
we
you
need to
finish
text
your
Kyle
image.
that.
Right.
But
I don't.
here's my skepticism on that working, and this is
Wait,
because
should we explain what it is really quick for
Go for
the
it, yeah.
people who aren't in the know? Essentially, what's it called? It's called what was the name
Can't
of it?
remember.
Shoot,
It's in the Nathan Fowles interview we did a few weeks back.
you guys,
called
this isn't a professional podcast where we have everything dialed in.
We
This
don't have a
is-
staff around us.
This is your three art uncles talking, at lunch,
Let me see if I can
essentially,
find it while you're
right?
talking about it.
Anyways,
Going
what
and I'll
this
see if I can
does
find it.
is you run it through this. You make an image, you run it through this software, and it messes on a digitally atomic level, right? Like on a pixel level, it puts a pattern in there so that when AI pulls that image and uses it to create something new from it, it's jarbled and jumbled and grumbled, and it's a hot looking mess, right? It can't effectively use it. There's like a static filter over the top of it. It almost looks like back in the 80s when you couldn't get channel 13 to come in correctly, and you're like doing the dial halfway through and you can sort of see the Munsters but not really. That's kind of what it's doing to the images. But go ahead, Will. Where were you going with that?
Well, it says Fowles, not the same spelling as Nathan's last name, is a cloaking software by Sand Laboratory.
Image cloaking software.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's the one he was pushing.
It's not
with
the one
theirs.
that he was talking about, but there's my skepticism. Tell me where I'm wrong on this. If you can see it on the screen, if you can see the artist's artwork, then why can't the AI take a screen grab
Right.
of the screen, and it doesn't have to take the source file? It could work from a screenshot.
Well, that would be the AI 2.0 crawler. You know what I mean?
So
Because it's
for
gotta get
every,
around the static.
there's never a digital software fix that goes, okay, all the security's done now. There's always a fight with any hacking. There are the hackers, and then there's the security people, and the hackers are, have another improvement in their hacking, and then the security people have to up their game, and it's kind of this ladder that goes up. So, and
Yeah,
I'm not
so-
against it. By saying that, I'm just
Right. I mean, it's a cat and mouse kind of thing.
I want to know, I know it's disrupting stuff. AI is every different field. There's a little bit of disruption happening, especially if you heard about translators, how they're completely out of work.
No.
Well, and if they have work, so essentially with translation, I don't want to go too far off the trail here, but it used to be you'd hire a translator. They would read the document, adjust for sentence structure, and figure out the correct the jive, like the vibe of what they were saying. It may not be the exact word for word translation, but they would get closer in the feeling than just running it through a computer. Well, now companies that use translators are like, oh, we could save a ton of money if we just run this through a translation software, give that to a human translator and say, can you just fix it so it sounds a little bit better? Well, now the human translators are saying this is just as much work, if not more. And what I end up doing is I just listen to the source material anyway and translate it anyway, but now for half the money, because fixing something that's already there is more work than me just translating it. And then they'll probably get to a point where the AI can do a pretty darn good translation, or an acceptable one for the company that's using it, right? And for the consumers that are using it. And so I feel like it's disrupting that. I don't know how many artists are losing jobs right now due to AI. Every once in a while you see a book cover come out that was they used AI for it, but then the backlash from that online is
to be a publisher and doing that would be suicide right now.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen a handful of publishers, smaller publishers, or maybe Tor was one of a big. I feel like I heard Tor doing a sci-fi cover or something like that.
Yeah.
Don't quote me on that, but the backlash that they're getting online is like, nobody buy this book, nobody, shame on you, go back and hire an illustrator. So right now it's really hot for people to not use AI professionally. Even Marvel's getting that.
In defense of Tor, I think if I remember that correctly, they have commissioned a ton of artists. So I don't want you guys to think this is a bad publisher. They commission artists. And I think what happened in that case is they bought stock and they didn't know the stock was. They didn't pay enough attention, and the stock was AI. So it wasn't a direct sort of them keying it in, but so I mean, they've commissioned a lot of artists. I just want to be in defense of that.
Yeah, they're a good, solid publisher. It was just, but when you do that slight misstep, you're going to hear about it in sort of this climate right now.
So here's the path to success for an illustrator right now.
Yeah,
build your skills so that you can from ground up build illustrations that look like AI art. Get commissions, post those all over social media, get the backlash from people going, this is AI, this is horrible, I can't believe it. But be able to show all of your steps. So you get like tons of free publicity because you'll get all this.
I
huge
like it.
backlash.
So you're riding the backlash train.
Yeah, just bait the social media people into coming after you, and then leverage that for publicity.
That's an interesting business plan.
It is interesting, but I've got a real business plan for you. Think about what you've actually spent money on. Okay. That had art on it. What's a recent thing you've purchased that was created by an artist?
I don't even want to bring it up because it pisses me off.
Okay.
I bought a book. I bought a book at a bookstore for the first time. I hadn't been to a bookstore in forever. I bought a book by one of my favorite illustrators, Isabel. I think he's pronounced it Arsenal. Arsenal.
Hold that book up.
Anyway, beautiful book. This is one that I had previously, but I bought this book at the bookstore and I was so proud of myself. I supported a local bookstore, got one of my favorite artist books. And then I went to the Apple store because that was the day I was picking up my new computer, and I left it there.
The book
I left the book there. I owned it for 5 minutes.
Okay. What about you, Will? What was the last
I haven't bought a book in a long time.
Well, it doesn't have to be a book. Could be a TV show. Could be anything that an artist was involved in it.
Ooh.
Will's not supporting the community. Backlash.
Oh my god.
Backlash.
I've supported a lot of Kickstarters, but you're catching me off guard here.
Well, here's the funny thing is you heard me ask Lee, you sat through his whole explanation
Right.
the whole time, not even thinking, oh, he's
jogging
probably
the
going to
whole
ask me
time.
next.
I was going through the files. I was running down the hallways.
Okay. We'll pass on Will while he's still thinking. I recently picked up a graphic novel. Let's see, where is it? We got.
All right, I'll show this before. This is my latest picture book that I supported on the Kickstarter.
Hold up, Tyrannosaurus Hex, the unluckiest day
by Gary Wilkinson,
ever.
Illustrated by Mr. J.
Okay.
By Mr. J.
And I picked up this Akira zine that was by what's his name? Ren McDonald, I think, is the artist. And this is just a fanzine, fan artists doing Akira fan art, and he compiled it and he printed on a risograph machine, and it's really just a cool little thing, right? I bought a sticker from him as well. But yeah, you gotta see this.
You're like
the
sticker and pin guy.
Yeah, look at that. Isn't that a cool sticker?
That is a really great sticker.
It would make a
Anyways.
great pin.
So what I'm trying to say is, I didn't, I haven't paid for any of the Instagram posts that I've liked, right? I haven't paid for any of the YouTube videos that I've liked, but I have paid for a complete finished product. And same with you guys, right? A complete finished product that had an artistic vision. It told us somewhat of a story, or at least harkened back to something that you're familiar with or nostalgic about, right? So here's your business model. A, get good at making art. B, make an actual product that you can sell that scratches some sort of need or itch for somebody, for a consumer. And whether it's a children's book, it's a comic book, it's a sticker set, it's a pin set, I just make tangible things. Quit worrying about making digital stuff that is scrolled past and appreciated for 5 seconds, and make something tangible that's lasting, that builds on previous work as well, right? And that's the way. I think that's the way to do it. That's the way to make it happen.
Let me ask you a side question, Jake, about stickers. Do you ever have what's known as facintuous with a sticker?
A what?
You ever heard of facintuous?
No, this is a new word for me. Do I want to look it up?
It's an acronym. I just made it up. Fear of sticking in the wrong spot. When I have a good sticker, I can't stick it because I'm worried that's the wrong spot, and I only have one sticker.
Almost like a tattoo. Like, you really want to make sure.
It's got to be the perfect spot for the sticker to go, and there's never the perfect spot because there's always maybe a better spot. So I never stick the sticker.
Yeah, I have that, and it's taken me a while to overcome. What's it called? What's the term again?
Fear of sticking in the wrong spot. I made that up. FOSINTWS. Facintuous.
Okay, that's why I've never heard the word before. It's a legitimate thing. I think you're onto something. I think the Gen Z crowd is a little bit more promiscuous with where their stickers go, and
where this podcast
I
is
think
going,
our Gen X selves were a little more judicious.
So you committed for that water bottle. Jake's showing a water bottle where he put stickers on there.
Yeah.
He committed. The laptop and the water bottle are two sort of guaranteed good sticker locations.
Right.
I still have
my daughter.
Jake's.
Her laptop has a double layer of stickers over it, and I was like, you've never seen a blank spot on a laptop that you didn't think, oh, sticker would go really good there. And then when I said that, she's like, oh, she forgot that the bottom of the laptop was like blank. So now both sides of the laptop covered in stickers.
Tell her not to cover up the vents. It's going to overheat, cause a fire.
Yes.
I've still got stickers hanging over here that I have not stuck. They're still in the package because I'm afraid.
See?
Because I have
Where to
that.
put 'em.
Yeah.
The other good place is your sketchbook. So I threw some stickers on the back, one sticker
good.
on the front. That's where I've typically put stickers in the past. On the sketchbook.
All right, let's wrap up. This is a long one. We're babbling.
I'll say one last thing on the AI. Go check. I watched a video yesterday by Brad Colbo. He might be a cool guy to have on our podcast as well. He's a YouTuber, does art YouTube stuff, and his video was why your AI art isn't selling and never will. And the gist of it is you should watch it because he gets really. It's only 8 minutes, but he gets really kind of deeper into it than this, obviously, because this is only a 30-second synopsis of it. But essentially, people are making so much of this stuff and putting it on, they're doing AI books, and they're doing AI, AI written books or AI packs of reference
Everything.
material or whatever. He said essentially it's too much of the same. It's too much noise, and
That's what Will was saying,
nobody's gonna you're not gonna be able to cut through it by just doing AI art. You have to bring yourself into it somehow.
Let me just say one more little thing is remember when music in the, went electronic in the 80s? So we went to I don't know, were you guys around then? It went, new wave into electronic music, and it was like Depeche Mode was one of the first all electronic bands,
Yeah.
And then what was the next era that came out of that? Was grunge, unplugged,
It's true.
and unplugged MTV. And so just because the technology was there, and electronic music didn't go anywhere either. Like we still have it, and I love it. And it's its own genre, but it didn't replace,
That's true.
our aesthetic. So
Yeah, that's a really good point as well. Lastly, can I do one more thing? I'll save it for next time.
Okay.
All right, we'll take us out.
now I'm curious.
Yeah.
What do you think it
my
is,
notes?
Lee? Because he asked you for permission.
No, I asked both.
He didn't
both
ask
of you.
me.
I think he was saying lastly, but no.
Oh, I thought he said
lastly.
ask Lee.
No, I
think
said
it's lastly.
lastly.
Oh,
will you
okay.
guys give me? Lastly,
I'm like,
will.
why is he asking Lee for permission?
You felt
What about
left out
me?
all of a sudden.
Now he wants to do it. He's gonna do it.
He can't stop. He
No.
can't stop.
I could have left it alone.
This has gone on.
could have
for
left it
30
alone.
minutes. This podcast is 30 minutes too long.
Quick shout out to James Koenig, local artist here in Gilbert.
Boom.
And he has this 3-book collection of the art of James Koenig. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Sorry, James. But it's spelled Koenig. And he's just a cool sketch artist. And these are fun books. I think kids will like them because he does really fun cartoony stuff. So he gave me these, and I told him I would mention it online. So
How much did he pay you for that?
he didn't pay me anything. He actually
Buy
didn't
your
even buy me
audience.
lunch. James, come on.
What's up with that?
I'm just kidding. It was fine. We met for lunch, and it's fun to just meet up with someone local.
It is.
Who's like into
I
what
got
you
to meet
do and-
Anthony Beneke. I hope he's listening.
Yeah.
He's a local artist that just said, "Hey, I've been following you forever. Now you live just a few miles away from me since I moved down here in Arizona."
Mhm.
And so we got together.
That's
It's
cool.
pretty cool. Yeah.
All right. You want to shout out anybody, Lee?
Anthony Wheeler lives down the street from me. I'm gonna hang out with him pretty soon.
Is he
Sounds
worried
good.
about getting bit by a rattlesnake?
He is. He doesn't take his kids to Green Mountain. We already talked about that. Jake missed that whole rattlesnake conversation.
I had to bring it full circle.
Yeah.
The rattlesnakes.
Rattlesnakes will be part of every podcast from now on.
Sounds good. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us. 3-Point Perspective is made possible by SVSLearn.com, where becoming a great illustrator starts. Your hosts have been Will Terry, Lee White, and Jake Parker. Go find us on Instagram. It's Will Terry Art. It's at Will Terry Art. It's at Lee White Illo, and it's at Jake Parker. Special thanks to our podcast producer, Daniel 2. Check him out at daniel2.co. A special thanks to our show notes wrangler, Lily Howell, for all that she does. If you guys ever wondering, what was that thing they talked about? Go do the show notes. There's links going out to all the little side rabbit trails we go to. Does a great job there. And lastly, special thanks to our Chief Operations Officer, Lisa Fott. Now, go draw something. So my dad's like, hey, he lives in Phoenix. I live in Gilbert, which is like 30 minutes away, 40 minutes away, something like that. He's like, hey, I'll be in the East Valley for a dental appointment. Can I stop by and say hi? And I was like, sure. Actually, I'm super busy, but I have some errands to run. Let's go run errands together. That way, I actually prefer that because it's a little bit more quality time, I think, than
I
just
noticed
like
you did that with Tanner too. Is that your new date option? You just take people to run errands?
yeah. And it wasn't
Well,
Tanner, it was Austin.
and then
but
part of it is he makes him wash his car.
Yeah.
right. And then I'm
That's
like,
what I'm going
okay,
to do
here's
next time when you guys are in town. Hey guys, got a lot of home projects.
He's like,
That's a wrap up.
we'll get up there on those gutters. That I got a lot of leaves in there.
I don't know. I like driving with someone because they're not on their phones. They're like talking. I'm not on my phone. There's no distractions. It's just us. Okay. So I went to the Apple store to pick up the computer I ordered. Right. And so we walk in and they're like, okay, what's your name? And my dad's like, you don't know who this is? I was like, Dad, right now. He's like, you guys, this is Jake Parker. He's a famous illustrator.
Oh my gosh. Nice.
And I'm like, Dad, nobody knows who I am. I'm not famous. And he's like, no, he is. Have you guys heard of Inktober? And they're like, yeah, I think I've heard of it. And he's like, yeah, he started Inktober. He has over 1 million followers online. You guys are talking to a celebrity. And I was like, can I just get my, and they're like, so you're this computer, you use it for like art and stuff? I'm like, yeah, this is for like editing video and doing
all of it,
Photoshop and all that stuff. And they're like, oh, that's really cool. And they're like, yeah, he has a business, SVSLearn. I was like,
we need to have your dad doing our advertising. This is fantastic.
I know. I need to have him on here. So I was just like, I'm just rolling with it. Because I don't obviously I don't go in and brag about myself. Like, you have to ask what my name is. Right. You haven't seen this face.
How dare you?
You know. And they were gracious too. They're like, well, hey, if who's going to brag for you if not your dad? And I was like, okay, good point. And so then they're like, oh, you have a business. Apple can help you out with business. Let me get your email for your business, and maybe we can do. Because he's like, oh yeah, you guys should really partner with his company. They do all kinds of stuff. Apple needs to work with them. And I'm just like, you guys, I just want to grab my computer and get out of here. So they get my email. Now I'm getting Apple business emails like, let us, help you. I think it's, buy more of our stuff. It'll help your business.
Right.
But afterwards, I was like, we were walking out. I'm all, you know what? Thanks for being my hype man, Dad. It's good to have someone in your corner.
Now I know what to do next time we're running errands and we go to the Apple store.
Yeah. Let's go to the Apple store together and we'll hype each other up. Me? This is the guy you guys need to know about.
He wrote pickle. Have you heard of Pickleball Paul?
Yeah.
Have you heard?
You've heard of pickleball, right? Well, he's got the #1 best-selling pickleball.
That's right.
Children's book.
That's right.
Right up from the other pickleball book with the mom screaming at the kid.
There's actually another one. There's another one that popped in yesterday. So it's catching on.
Really?
Yes. Yeah.
A competitor. What's the title?
It's a wave. You expect me to remember that?
Well, if it's like Bend Your Knees
competition.
Louise, Bend Your Knees Louise was a knockout hit.
I will find it.
This is Pickleball Pete, and it's about a raccoon who loses his paddle. I don't know.
It's called Pickleball Pals. That's the new
one.
Just dropped.
Oh,
just dropped.
Green.
So we're on School of Visual Storytelling on YouTube if you want to see this.
Oh my God.
And that's someone's dream right there. And I fully understand how they feel.
Tell me.
They drew that cover.
But mine shows up before theirs. So
yeah, yours has.
They drew that cover and they're like, I've got some grass in the background. Which green should I use? Okay, where's my MS Paint? Okay, I'm gonna pick that neon green.
Yeah.
Okay, we're not making fun of their
electric
art.
green.
No, I'm
it's
making
like
fun
Matrix green, right?
Yeah,
this one was
worse.
This one is interesting since we're critiquing children's pickleball books. The cropping on this is it's just interesting. Where are all the pickles in pickleball? And
and it's a bunch of women from the waist down.
Yeah, we would we would critique this and give them different suggestions. On
Like, it's just awkwardly cropped. They're all like
that. Yeah.
bodiless.
Well,
Like
you
the
don't know
top
where they
half
go
work-
because the background color is the same. So it's not in a separate illustration. So
Yeah, it does look like they're just.
if you're
half,
listening to this,
like
it makes no
mannequin-
sense.
Mannequin.
It makes no
base.
sense. But I will say to that illustration, the rendering, the rendering part, the illustration and character design part is nice. It's the graphic design that's
Right.
not good. Let's play pickleball. All right. Yeah, you clearly are the Mr. Beast of pickleball books.
How's this one?
How pickleball saved Ollie Otter. That Ollie Otter looks.
Are those people in the background? So like he's going to be
No,
playing
they're
against.
they're other animals.
Okay, I can't see.
Looks
it.
cute.
Yeah, they're dogs back there.
Oh, I can see it now. Okay,
Yeah,
make
Dogs.
my screen bigger.
yeah.
Ooh, all right.
So there you
And
go.
Did we start this podcast yet? We haven't done our intro or anything.
No, let's do it. You ready for that? Are you guys glad to have me back?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Or does Anthony have
We
my
thought
job
we
now?
had another week of making fun of you.
Anthony was just a little smoother, a little better.
Yeah, better all the way around.
He does
Will
this.
Will did a fantastic Jake impression, by the way, last week to do our intro.
No, the outro. Oh, the
outro?
intro as well, I think.
Intro as well.
Yeah.
I haven't-
You just channel Jerry Seinfeld and you got it.
Hey guys, do it again, Will. What? How did you do it? Hey
What is
guys,
up? What is up with all these illustrations?
I mean, who are these people?
See,
Oh
it
boy.
flows off your tongue.
Me doing me doing Will doing Jerry Seinfeld doing me. That's what that was.
That's the metaverse right there somehow.
All right, you guys ready for this?
Ready.
Let's roll.